Hi, my name's Katie.
I'm Sabrina.
And this is our show, Inheritance. We'd like to talk to you about the work we've made for our thesis, and I would like to start. So I'd like to bring you over here to these crochet portraits that I've made. This is a portrait of my grandmother, Sharon. This is when she was graduating high school in 1961. It's titled Sherry. And adjacent, we have my senior portrait from when I was graduating in 2021, titled Katie. And in the middle, we have my piece, I See So Much of Her in Me. And I chose crochet to build half of my work because it's been a way for me to self-soothe and regulate my emotions. I guess I should preface, all of my work has to do with my grandmother's diagnosis of dementia and the way that this disease has not only affected her, but affected every member of my family in different ways. So these pieces acted as sort of therapy to me. Crochet has always been therapeutic to me. And as my grandmother's condition worsened and her dementia progresses, I figured now is the time for me to turn this hobby of mine into a more direct confrontation of my own feelings. These two portraits adjacent from each other sort of stand as a representation of me kind of confronting what my own future might be like, seeing a lot of her traits in myself as I grow, and just trying to connect with the young woman that she once was and the woman that she is now. So let's move over there. Now we're moving into the picnicking section of my thesis. This work is titled His Love Feels Cruel. This work focuses on my relationship with God and how that has changed due to my grandmother's condition. My grandmother is a very religious woman, and her, developing dementia and watching the physical and mental changes she's gone through has made me question my own relationship with God. In this is my own depiction of the hand of God, and here he's holding an oscillum, or better known as an ice pick. These were used. Thinking of the word, this is a live stream. Lobotomist, thank you, other Katie. They were used in lobotomies, which were regularly performed on women with dementia. And I wanted it to be kind of a demanding figure, and I wanted it to evoke fear and anxiousness in the viewer. And I chose the color red and black because both of those are very strong and loud colors that feel very aggressive, and you'll see that in the rest of my printmaking work. Speaking of the rest of my printmaking work, let's go over here. Yes, I can stand in the middle. So these two pieces, titled Blame Me and Fear Me, depict a large stick of deodorant and a large tube of toothpaste. So I wanted these prints to be large and commanding and to hold authority over the viewer. I've chosen to use red and black in these prints for the same reasons as His Love Feels Cruel. So I chose a deodorant stick and a tube of toothpaste because typically deodorant contains aluminum and toothpaste contains fluoride. In certain conspiracy circles, aluminum and fluoride are believed to be contributing factors to a person's risk of developing dementia. But this is false. But nevertheless, individuals, such as my father and other members of my family, have clung to this notion because it provides an answer that's better than just luck of the draw. I again wanted these to be just very large and aggressive and loud pieces. I wanted them to hold just authority and dominance over the floor. And they kind of just represent to me just scapegoats, and I'm rambling now, but just medical misinformation and conspiracy theories, and just trying to find something to put the blame on when there just doesn't exist anything yet that we can put the blame on. And with that, let's move over to my lovely friend and thesis partner, Sabrina.
Hi, I'm Sabrina. I am a printmaker as well, and I also have used textile work in this thesis exhibition. I chose these two mediums primarily because of the repetitive nature of them. This particular piece, called Blonde at Heart, is stone lithography, the heart, and then there's a screen print layer, which is my hair exposed on a screen print screen that I hold over top of the print. And all of my work also kind of goes into the relationship between myself and my maternal grandmother, and just kind of drawing parallels between herself and I, and also like kind of how we process and think. So that was my first piece of lithography. And I also wanted to hit off note that I feel like lithography, especially like kind of mimics the process of grief and like its repetitive nature and several steps and processes that you kind of have to wait and like think through. So that's why I chose that particular printmaking process. And then my next piece is titled A Letter to Me, delivered by St. Bridget. St. Bridget is the saint that I was confirmed under, and though I no longer am part of that faith, my grandma had a strong connection to a church in my hometown that had stained glass windows, and so I wanted to reference that because that was an important part of our relationship. And so with this quilt, I wrote a letter to my grandma using my new sewing machine. And yeah, so she always wrote me letters at college, and just whenever she would send one when she was thinking of me, so I wanted to kind of send one to her. So that's this piece, and you can move over to the other textile pieces. These are also done on a sewing machine using water-soluble fabric that I dissolved, and again reflecting upon a quote that my grandmother said when she was sick, and it just really stuck with me. And so, as you can tell, written word as well as spoken word has become really important in influencing my art, and also has shown up in it as well. So the piece on the left with the lungs is called Can't They Just Cut It Off? And it just really stuck with me because she just wanted them to take off one of the lungs and have a healthy one. So I just thought that was really curious. So I have like the torso of it. And then the next piece is another stone litho. And it's called Pills in My Hands Like Little Maggots. And it was something I thought of and is kind of referenced in my quilt, and just how my grandmother and I's relationship with like our mental health, and also just being able to kind of reconcile with that. And then all of the maggots are also like still litho, they've been cut out, and there's some before as well. And then the final piece is a second quilt. It's called Please Stop. all of the fabric that I've used is inherited from my mother's side of the family. It's all been passed down to me as well. This is stained with tea, the cake part, and then again, machine embroidered. Again, dealing with my grandma and my relationship with her, and the tea stain is like referencing her walls when we were going through her house and like cleaning them. Just trying to think if there's anything else, but yeah, just my reflecting on the parallels between my grandmother and I, and kind of using textiles and lithography as a process to think about and spend some time with these things that I think
Do we have any questions?
Does someone have any questions? You guys gonna start coming up with them?
Are there any questions? Oh, Joshua.
I like how you both decided to kind of like spread your pieces like in interspersed between each other. Was there like a reasoning behind that, or was it just visuals?
Well, I think it was both visual interests, and we just felt that our work, although having, different backgrounds, our work worked well together, and we wanted viewers to not separate the two installations.
What is the process like making a pattern for this sort of crochet we're doing?
So that style of crochet is called filet crochet because it exists of folds and blanks. And how I made these patterns, I used Procreate, and I uploaded my own images in black and white with extreme contrast, put a grid over it, and each little dot I filled in a full half of blank. And then, just got to work.
Do you see any comments or questions online? Is somebody monitoring this? Okay. We have 3 viewers. Oh, 4. Thank you.
Thank you guys, and thank you for viewers.
Hi everyone. No idea how many viewers, so hi guys. welcome to my thesis show. It's titled Essence of Divinity. My name's Faun Winthrop, and the concept that I was working with is the idea of God in a very general sense, just like the idea of something bigger than yourself, and how everyone, regardless of their beliefs, has their own perspective on divinity, and how that brings us closer together when we think about it from a stance of similarity as opposed to trying to tear each other apart as it has historically. So that's my piece over here. You could might have to angle the camera down. But if you navigate through these clouds, you can come over to the cute little oasis. I invite anyone, if someone would like to come and interact, to kneel down onto the pillows and listen to the music. This piece was made primarily, the illustrations were created in Procreate, then edited in After Effects and Premiere, and like for the visual transitions, and then the frame is over a gigantic TV, and the frame is made out of cardboard. There's a million different things I could talk about with this, but it was a journey creating it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you. There's anyone, as he usually is. Thank you guys, and I'll pass
Hello, my name is Sean, and I'm a printmaker. This is my show. It is titled Loyal and True, and this is a reference to a lyric from a song from the summer camp, which all of these, this is a series of quilts, paper quilts. I put that in quotes because they're not traditional quilts. They exist more as a contemporary style of quilting, but they're all a series that exists as sort of a memoir to this summer camp. This summer camp has existed in my life for as long as I can remember, as well as most of my family's lineage. They have gone through this camp as campers and employees, and still to this day, this will be my last summer at that summer camp. I'm the program director, and my mom is the camp director, so there's still a lot of familial ties with that. But these quilts all exist as an homage to that, and this title comes from the lyric, "May your friendships be loyal and true." So this first piece right here, I have titled this one Arts and Crafts. That was the activity that I was at for the longest part of my stay at this camp, and I would usually go to this activity as a young camper, and I feel like this is where a lot of my practices had stemmed from, whether it was just making small things like these lanyards and keychains to certain paper crafts which exist today. So a lot of these little objects that exist on this quilt were given to me by people from this camp, whether they were children or adults that had made them, and I carried them all on this carabiner right here, and over the summers it just got heavier and heavier, and all of this paper was made by the children at this camp. I got to lead a paper making activity, and this was about 2 summers ago, and the paper over time has taken a lot of damage to the sun and just gotten weak, so the weight of these over time will likely weigh down the paper and create some damage due to that. We can transition over to this one. So this was the first one that I had made. Originally, this was not going to be a series. I was just going to make this one, so I wanted to encapsulate a lot of my relationship to this camp and just a lot of the core traditions and values which tie it back to that practice of quilting. There's a lot of history with tradition and passing things down. So this one, it was inspired by a log cabin star pattern, and that log cabin kind of ties in perfectly with the summer camp. There's cabins that everybody stays in, and the colors, they're inspired by all of the trees. It exists on 572, I believe, acres of property up in Belleville, Ohio. So not too far from the Athens region, which has also inspired a lot of the quilting with the Quilt National that happens down here. Again, this one, that log cabin star, it just has a lot of history with family and tradition, which this summer camp has implemented a lot into my brain. We can follow over to this one. A lot of things from this camp have been passed down from its origin in the early 1940s. This story, there is a story that inspired this one titled Horse Thief Jack, and the story is to never be replicated on print. So I wanted to try and find a way to convey that story through an artistic practice, and this is kind of an homage to that cowboy western ghost story. There's a lot of quilting traditions in the West that exist as well, so I wanted to pull some of those visual elements, and again, it carries a lot of that handmade paper and machine sewing from the other quilts. And then finally, this last piece is titled Songbook, and this is another thing that's been passed down from the beginning of this camp and throughout my family. If you ask almost anybody, if you sing any of these songs to them, they will still know the lyrics. So if you can see up close, each of these panels is a lyric sheet from the songbook. There are 25 of them. It's not the full complete songbook, but it's just a sample showing the history of these songs and sort of their ties to American history. There's some patriotic ones as well as other things that have not aged well over time, but we still sing them, which I think is interesting to consider how those traditions exist today and sort of their like ties to gender and certain things like that. And the last thing I wanted to touch on, so the installation itself, each of these quilts features a bed underneath it, and these beds are from the actual summer camp, and again, they've existed since the 1940s when the camp was put into place, and they're still used today despite their condition. And I really just wanted to show that the age and condition can be replicated like within each of these quilts. That is basically it. Any questions?
Any questions for Faun or Sean?
I had the headphones on, I think, when you were like talking, so I think I missed some context. Was that a song that you composed yourself, or did you? Oh, okay.
That's me singing.
I thought it might be, so I was really curious. I didn't know you were a musician.
Oh,
Sounds really nice.
First radio show, not very good at it.
Well, it's in a gallery now.
Thank you.
I have a question for Sean. Do you find like the juxtaposition between, you say like the outdated lyrics, especially pertaining to gender and like conformity, and this like combining it with the traditional like women's craft of quilting, do you find that's something that you want to explore further, or is that just kind of like a coincidental like
Yeah, I
play
think
on
so.
the two subjects?
That is something I thought a lot about when making all of these. Was so much of that history with quilting is a women's practice, and I think specifically my relationship with this summer camp, it is like on my maternal side, and mostly just the women who stuck through it. I think like I might be the only person who identifies as a man in my family who stuck that long through it. Also just like within my own family, I've been inspired a lot more by those women and those strong maternal figures. So I've connected with that a lot more.
online questions?
How many years we got?
3. Awesome. Well, thank you. We're going to go to the next gallery.
Fan off. Okay, I'm Belle, and this is my thesis show called My Fault. So through undergrad, I've made art about the representation of sexual assault and rape survivors, and this is just kind of the ending point where I focused more on like the inner mind of a survivor and what it's like to be sitting inside of their head and stuff. Yeah, I do it through photography mainly, and I do a lot of photography, and I make large scale prints out of them to give it more of that realistic feeling compared to straight digital illustrations, which is what I do half of my other work. I'm a current digital art and technology major, and I will be graduating and going into the CSP program here at OU, which is College Student Personnel in the Higher Education and Student Affairs program, so that I can further work with students to help them get access to resources so that everybody can get a chance to have a happy time and healthy living at college. I don't know what else to say.
Can you do a pan of the outside? So
Yeah,
you
you can
the...
do a pan of the outside, that's fine.
Okay.
Just not on the inside
Right.
of it.
It's kind of hard to see. Thank you.
I'm Ryan Jenkins. I'm a mixed media artist, and this is my show, Impact. This body of work depicts animalistic behaviors as I explore how trauma impacts the way one views and interacts with the world. So I'm thinking about very big topics, obviously, and so that demands a scale that conveys the gravity of how acts or how trauma impacts people. So I'm using charcoal and ink on raw canvas. These are really raw, real materials that really show like the grittiness and realness that trauma really is. So I'm depicting animals in these pieces because animals lack the human tendency to mask their emotions. An animal is scared, it hisses and bites and lashes out and protects itself. And while humans aren't immune to lashing out, since we are animals, oftentimes I feel like we try to hide a lot of those feelings that maybe are underneath. So in the rabbit piece, that's really showing flight, as in fight or flight instincts, which trauma can make part of everyday life. Rabbits are often symbols of fleeing and being scared and flight. But also, my horse piece, horses are also a flight animal. As the animal gets bigger, though, and it starts to be able to defend itself more, it starts coming off as a little scarier, maybe, which I think says a lot about trauma in people, too. And then in my other two pieces, the tigers and the roosters depict animals fighting, which violence is often some of the most impactful trauma, especially in the fact that it can often lead to cycles of violence. People that have experienced violence are more prone to it to protect themselves or for whatever reasons. So that can really, again, a cycle of violence. And so my hope with these pieces and this body of work, you showing that. My hope with these pieces and this body of work is that you can identify and see some of these emotions and pain maybe in yourself, and use that to understand how we're all connected, and hopefully that can bring you to some radical empathy for others, because we're all in the same world and we all experience pain. And that's it.
Awesome, thank you. Do the artists want to go over here and? Okay. I have a question for you, Ryan. Just in terms of how the installation of the work, being that it's so large and having probably a fairly smallish studio space, how does this installation support the idea behind your thesis work?
So it was a struggle to get these pieces this large. You can see there's kind of a maximum size that they get to, and that's about the biggest size of were the size of the biggest wall I had. These were really a pain to move around until I had put them on the wood. But I had them all bunched together, and I put the wood up on the wall, and I nailed them to the wood, and then I put them all up, and then I could finally roll them up. But I had to have them draped around because they're so big. It's hard to do anything with them. Yeah, but I knew that I wanted them big because I was talking about big ideas. So whatever it took.
Thanks. Anyone else?
I was just wondering, did you use like videos to capture these different like angles and stages of movement, or did you like kind of just like did you use a reference, I guess, or were you just
I actually compiled different references, and I would take my favorite, maybe like 2 to 3, and I would like really focus on my favorite parts of the favorite references, and they would come together as one image that looks like kind of a mess of a view.
Anything online? Okay. We had 6 viewers. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. We will be back next Tuesday with the next group of thesis exhibitions.